Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and let's talk about my Leaguestart for the next season of Torchlight Arcana. And now, it's not going to surprise anyone. Rayhan buffs, new Rayhan skin. I'm playing Rayhan, I'm playing Train. We're making a burst build yet again. We got some big changes to Rayhan, and it's going to make him, hopefully, much better scaling in the end game. So what exactly did we get? Now, Anger's base trait got an additional 0.9% damage to burst per level. This is, of course, very nice. And we also got some additional, you can see the weapon damage there is 410, previously 325. And these buffs to compensate for losing the support gems on the final trait. We now have got rampaging on the final trait, which gives up to 140% of your bonus and additional bonus attack speed becomes burst, cooldown, recovery speed. So very, very nice there. The other one gives 200% additional burst area and additional damage. This does rely on you having a lot of cooldown reduction, and it actually becomes quite weird how much cooldown reduction you actually want to get because of the new way that the damage cap is calculated. It's quite easy to get above the damage cap. Well, I say easy. We can get above the damage cap, but get into enough cooldown to actually trigger burst enough times within the 3 frames gets a bit difficult, but that's all technical. Basically, we're probably going to be going rampaging, and we also get to a new option early on, which is going to be great for leveling. You can see that we generate 18 to 40 rage per second instead of consuming rage while Berserk is active. So the normal, when you go into rage, it will just deplete 15 per second, and you'll rage for, what is that, like 6 seconds, right? Now you will only consume rage when you burst, and you'll also be generating. So early on, this is going to be really, really nice. You're not going to have to rely on any recklessness shenanigans in order to spend life to generate rage. Essentially, as soon as you get to tunnel vision, you can just go a burst build, right? You can go either whirlwind, savage charge, berserking blade. All of them are going to be absolutely fine, and this is going to carry you well into the early end game, as you just have a lot of base damage on this hero. So you're going to be very, very strong from leveling into early end game, and then obviously, Train does become quite difficult, and it requires a lot of stats on your gear in order to push into the end game. So do know that if you want to play Train, I guess this is the warning. Train always has been difficult to scale into the ultra end game due to the nature of it being popular. It relies on crafted mods. It relies on corroded unique items, stuff like that. It's not like an insane combination of things to put this together, right? It requires you to have pretty maxed out gear to be able to do the in-game stuff. So if you want a character to start on, to farm on, this is going to be absolutely phenomenal for doing that. But if you want a build that you can play from level 1 to the ultra end game, maybe not Train unless you're willing to put in the hours and get the gear. So that's that out the way now. What is it looking like? Well, I went to the trouble of making a calculator for how much damage we could potentially do, and with basically my gear from last season with some changes to incorporate the attack speed stuff. This is of course very, very nerdy. We end up getting up to 23 trillion. Now this is fake DPS because we actually can't go above 15 because of the way that the hit cap works, but just to show that we can definitely get into that end game damage. And I only wanted to do this because obviously last season I went in and I didn't know that my character was going to be absolutely hard capped by cooldown, and it was going to be pretty much impossible for me to kill the boss. So this time I wasn't taking any chances, and I mathed all of it out, and it seems like we're going to get there with good gear. And this is good gear in this calculation for sure. But in the early end game, how are we going to be looking? Well, before you get into T8, of course, you can craft using flame sand and get up to T2 mods on all your gear. And for weapon, we have just a normal weapon with gear fizz, flat fizz. Now, melee damage is a prefix. I can't give you a picture of that because it's not in the build yet. But we can have percent melee damage, on the prefix. Then we've got fizz damage, gear attack speed, and regular attack speed on the final mod. And that's going to give us some cooldown reduction. Then we have 2 rings, both with strength, dex, life, res. You can also pick up a chaotic ending. This is going to give you a ton of fervor effect, as well as the opportunity to maybe get some blessings, which is going to give you a lot more damage. This is only really an option once you have the Ghost Slaughter gloves, which are definitely the best in slot for this build. 1% additional attack damage for every 3 fervor rating. This then, of course, scales with your fervor effect. This was doing too much damage last season. Hopefully not so much this season. This also isn't completely updated. It should be 3 for every 4. The max roll builder is not 100% up to date, as we're no longer supporting the game. Until then, though, you could swap out for things like Praise for Injury to get Explode. It's a fine alternative until you get these. Now, early on, these will likely be a little bit cheaper if you get there in the first day. Last season, I picked these up for 6 FE, and within a few hours, they were up to 600. So if you're one of the first people to get into the time marks and start farming, then you're going to get these a lot cheaper. But be warned, these are going to get expensive, and they are a very big part of the build and make it obviously do a lot more damage. For a helmet, there are a couple we can use. Obviously, Fool's Crown, the Abyss, adding flat damage to our main hand weapon. This, of course, scaling burst nicely. But for a rare, you just go with life, strength, damage, crit damage, erosion res, lovely stuff. Vortex Heart is a good amulet. Gives you flat damage. This isn't the most flat damage because obviously it doesn't get scaled by burst inherent scaling. But then we get stuff like crit damage, crit rating, 40% additional damage from Focus Strike, but we do lose a bit of skill area. Best in slot is Truth. This is going to give us additional skill levels, which of course scales burst. And then our stats. Heavyware is a fine early game chest. Late game, we're going to want to craft a chest with like sealed mana, aura effect, explode, that kind of stuff. But early on, heavyware is more than enough to get you going. Explode really just start to carry once you get into the time mark 8 though. Old King Sabatons for the booties. We got gear armor, max life, damage, move speed, erosion res. Now you could also go for something like a pair of resolution steps. You're going to get less res on these. But you will get tenacity blessings, a tiny amount less move speed, and a bit less damage. But either are fine. For the hero traits, as soon as we get up to level, what is it these days, 75, we'll switch straight to rampaging and go crit, and then we'll pick up some attack speed on the tree. And yeah, we're pretty much going to be off to the races immediately, sustaining our rage quite nicely, as well as doing that additional damage. Now, getting those level ups to your hero traits is going to be very strong early on. Even getting up to 120% instead of 100 is going to be a big multiplier to your cooldown. And of course, getting as much crit as you can so that you're basically sustaining rage as early as possible is going to be crucial. So early on, this is what we're going to look like. We're passing through the damage, the skill radius, more damage. We've got attack speed and crit damage up here. Damage on the Shadow Dancer tree. This tree is just great for us. We've got +1s. We've got move speed, percent damage, max life regain, all the stuff you'll have on it. You'll see this in game, obviously. And then dirty tricks. For dirty tricks, we do need base whirl, base ignite, added cold, and added lightning. You can grab one of the lightning or cold on your ring. And what this basically means is you can drop a link on your main skill. Because if not, you have to drop hardened for whichever one you didn't cut, right? In this case, it would be Wilt, but you can also get Wilt on a slate. You can see this Goddess of Deception. Divinity Slate here adds 8 base Wilt damage. That is another option. Basically, you just need sources of them all. The easiest source is the support gems, but then you lose obviously 20 whatever percent damage reduction it is from Hardened. You lose barriers from Guard if you can't run that. And we need to run quick decision. Sorry, we need to run quick decision because our attack speed has to keep up with our trigger rate. Otherwise, what's the point in having the trigger rate if we can't trigger our burst by attacking fast enough? So that's how we're looking there. Slates, there are some obviously great slates for this build. Look at this one. If we can pick up something like this with +2 and further effect, that's going to be a massive amount of damage. We also have trade-off, which basically says if your strength and dex are equal, gain 25% additional damage and 25% additional attack speed. So this is, of course, more damage and more trigger rate of your burst. So best in slot for this build for sure. And then for the inner, we just have gravity. Pretty much any damage inner will be fine. You can also just not get a pedigree 1 talent. You can just get something like a level or just anything good, really. You just get trade-off to start with, of course. For memories, crit dam. We don't get crit dam from like anywhere. We can't get it from gear. We can't get it on tree. So crit dam is going to come from our memories. Now, there is a little bit of crit dam in this tree right here. Shadow Dancer, these 6 to 9 points that we could pick up, but the best source of this is definitely your memories. You can get so much crit down here. It's just the best mod to get on your memories. Maybe you want to get hero levels as well, but they're obviously going to be expensive, as well as things like move speed. For candles, gaining blessings whenever you trigger a skill is really good because obviously focus blessings give you 5% more damage each. Agility blessings give you 2% additional damage each. And tenacity blessings obviously give you damage reduction. So definitely want one of these. Then the best 2 damage mods would be 4% additional for every 8 meters of movement, and then 40 to 45 physical damage added to the main hand weapon. So this sheet is going to be available to you all in the description. As always, you can see the calc I did. You can even, if you really wanted to, put your gear and your mods in here and see how accurate this is and how much damage it spits out. Pets, I can't really go into what Kismets we're going to be using because I just don't know enough about the system yet. But yeah, it's going to be typical Rayhan leveling stuff. Flak put together a pretty early builder that you could use. But you're basically just pathing through God of War, Shadow Dancer, picking up all the damage nodes, all the levels, and just leap attacking through the campaign with Berserking Blade, right? It's pretty standard stuff. The max roll guide will be gone, I'm afraid to say, as we're no longer supporting the game. But I'll try to keep you updated onto what I'm doing. As for what happens from here, as I get more and more, I'll obviously put my codes on one of these pages. I do have a list of things that I think might be good for this season. We have things, well, at least for starters. For starters in this game, you basically want to be able to get into those profound time marks and then just start farming. I don't necessarily think you have to play a build that can get into deep space immediately, because it's kind of hard to do and know if your character is going to be good enough to get there on a low level of gear. So the stuff that I think is going to be strong to start would be Mind Control, Yoga 2, Train, Iris 2 I think is going to be strong. Someone will figure that out. Lethal Flash, Wilt, same as last time. Obviously got nerfed, but still very strong. Chain Lightning, Yoga, Berserking Blade, Erica, or like Thunder Slash, basically any Steep Strike. Arrow, Einhayar, Gemma, Icebound Beam, Selena, Thunder Spike, Erica 2, and Howling Gale, Selena. I'm not as sure about the Howling Gale. Losing the Explode from Ice Imbue might make this a bit weaker, but if it is, you can always just go Icebound Beam. I think that's what a lot of people did last season. So yeah, that's how we're looking. Another yap session from me complete. I'm sorry that I'm having to share it in this format. I'll try and keep the... Obviously, once we get into the game, I can start sharing codes and you'll be able to see it a bit more easily. But that's what I'm up to right now and what I'm planning to do. Not really a leveling guide, as, I mean, we've done it 100 times, right? If you're just starting out, yeah, follow the builder from Flack. And obviously, you can stop by stream, ask any questions if you have any. And as we get into the end game, if I make any changes, I'll let you know. So thank you very much for watching. I'm looking forward to the Arcana season. It's in like 26 hours from now. So I'll see you there. Bye-bye.